share recipes and ideas on how you can stay healthy naturally. I am your coach, Grace Enemale. Today, I want to talk about an important food, coconut, but the focus is on the coconut oil. The focus is on the coconut oil, the cold pressed coconut oil. There is so much to talk about this oil because it's the most important part of the coconut. But in this first highlight, I want to briefly talk about the coconut as a fruit. The coconut is a nut which we have consumed for several years without knowing its health benefits. Several years back, the coconut was considered as a food for the poor because it is rich in energy. And I was also a beneficiary while I was growing up. We ate lots of it, coconut and the palm kernel nut also, because those who could not afford some other sweet varieties were left with these natural foods, but they're actually loaded. The coconut has 3 segments. You have the outer shell, you have the hard shell, then the fruit itself inside the coconut. We all know. But today we know that we have come to realize that every part of the coconut is beneficial and useful. But the most important part of the coconut is the oil. The oil, the cold pressed coconut oil, which is noted for its high saturated fat content. It is this very fat content in coconut oil that gave it its bad name, or a tag that awareness is trying to take off today. A bad tag, because we know that saturated fat is not good for our heart. And even when you consume the coconut oil, especially the bad ones that were not properly processed or that has been maybe hydrogenated one, those that hydrogen has been added to, you may not get the full benefits. But if you consume it the right way, and I want to, during the last highlight here, share a few of the best ways that we can enjoy this healthy oil for our health. I have actually I began to use coconut oil since 2010. And it was actually for yeast infection, yeast activities, for menopausal reasons during the difficult days of menopause. That was when I began to search for this oil, and I could not find it anywhere. I searched all the supermarkets, all the shops. It was nowhere to be found. When I eventually got it in an obscure place in a camp meeting, it was actually the fried one, not the cold press. I used it. And as a result of that, I began to create awareness, and I had to write a handbook on the cold pressed coconut oil, the coconut and why the oil stands out amongst all oils. Began to preach it as a message, and that is why I thought to remind us. On the WhatsApp platforms and various platforms also, there had had seminars teaching us on how to make your own cold pressed coconut oil at home. And it is very easy. It's very easy. The coconut oil has been in existence for many years, but it was given a bad tag. A lot of people ran away from it because we were misinformed. We were deceived by the big pharma that it is high in saturated fat and it's not good for our heart. And so we continued to consume the processed oils, the man-made fat. I shall be telling us the health benefits of saturated fat, especially when it comes to our body. The use of towards the end, the use of saturated fat to strengthen our immune system, especially naturally occurring saturated fat. So you don't get me wrong. Naturally occurring saturated fat is the emphasis here. A lot of people are still afraid of the fat in coconut oil, the coconut oil, or the coconut as a fruit. But if you are one of such people, you need awareness and you need to be in this. And I also encourage those watching to share it, because we need to remind ourselves that coconut fat, the naturally occurring saturated fat in coconut, is actually not our enemy, but rather our friend. How did people come to know that coconut oil is good? I'll give us a small brief highlight on that too in this first segment. Some farmers actually, back in the 1940s, some farmers found this out by mistake. And of course, most of the things we do today were actually discovered by something I may call a mistake. So they were actually, these farmers back in the 1940s, as it was recorded, were actually trying to use coconut. They thought it was a cheaper option to feed their livestock because it was so much available. And they were giving their livestock lots of coconut and expecting that the livestock will become fat because of the oils and the fat in coconuts. But they got it wrong. Instead of these livestock to be fat because of the fat in coconut oil, they were slimmer, they were smarter, they were more active, and always hungry, my dear. So they began to wonder. We shall also know that very soon, when I shall highlight on the benefits of coconut oil, that it also boosts metabolism. I said I've used the oil since 2010 to maintain my health, to use it on my skin. It's what I've been using on my skin, on my hair. I use it in my ears, I put in my eyes. I use it all over. And that's what I've been using. I've not changed till date. And so that is why I have the authority to remind us, especially those who are still taking it lightly, that coconut oil is something, it's not just an oil, it's a medicine. And I shall tell us how to use it so that we don't fall a victim of the saturated fat in it. Because having used it for so long, I have also tested it in a lot of ways. apart from using it externally, various other ways. I have also been ingesting it to maintain my oral health, my dental health, my gut health, and my bone health, a lot of things. And so it's good I remind us and then tell us how I have been using it too in this very life. And I encourage you to watch, to stay and listen to the end, because you will surely benefit from it. And so the coconut, some people have asked a few questions that, should they just eat coconut? After all, the oil is part of it. And I have often answered that consuming the coconut as a fruit does not give you the benefit of using coconut oil as a medicine. And that is where we are going towards the end. That the coconut, consuming it as a fruit, it comes with sugar. Consuming it as a fruit is good for younger children. But if you are managing an ailment, you're managing a disease, maybe prostate, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, gut issues, stomach ulcers, or whatever ailments you are trying to address, it's not the fruit that will do the job. It's the coconut oil, and it's the cold-pressed coconut oil. Consuming the fruit will come in with fibers. A sick person may not be able to handle those fibers. It will come in with sugars and other carbs also. But the oil is the focus. The cold-pressed coconut oil is the focus. Most of us are already aware or have already learned through the platform, our WhatsApp, on how you can make your own cold-pressed coconut oil at home. You can easily identify the cold-pressed coconut oil. This is the cold-pressed coconut oil. The real cold-pressed coconut oil is colorless, as you can see. It's not in any way yellow. It has to be colorless, watercolor. That's how it's expected to be. It's not something you begin to wonder on how it looks. This is cold-pressed coconut oil. And what is the meaning of cold-pressed? I shall tell us that in the next highlight. What is the meaning of the word cold-pressed? It's not okay to assume that all of us, we know what cold-pressed is all about. Cold-pressed simply means a way of extracting the oil from the coconut, from the nut, without applying heat. And why is it necessary to bring the oil out without applying heat? It may look like something that is impossible when you hear it, but it is possible, it's practicable. I have done it, I've been doing it, and I've taught people, some of us, how to do it. It's very, very simple, it's very easy. Making the cold-pressed coconut oil. And why is the emphasis on the cold-pressed? The emphasis is on the cold-pressed because the cold-pressed coconut oil retains 3 active ingredients when it's not allowed to pass through heat, either by frying it to force the oil out or by applying any form of heat. Here are the 3 active ingredients that are retained in the coconut oil when it is cold-pressed. The lauric acid, the papric acid, and the medium-chain fatty acids. Someone was asking me, all these acid, are the acids not too much? I said, my dear, the coconut oil, so far to my knowledge, is only alkaline oil. The word acid does not actually mean acid in the real sense of the word acid. When you are talking of acid, it's a term that is used to define or express the work and their actions that these nutrients or agents in coconut, the work they carry out. That is how it is. And they are also, these three agents are what makes the coconut oil stand out amongst all the oils. If you ask me, I'll tell you, if you are going to any place, if you go with one thing, go with cold pressed coconut oil. It can save someone's life, even if it's not you, but someone by your side. The power of the coconut is in the coconut oil. The coconut oil has been effectively used to manage a lot of ailments. The cold pressed coconut oil, and whenever I say coconut oil, please note that I am actually referring to the cold pressed, which has been extracted without adding any form of heat. Once you apply the heat to it in bringing it out, either by boiling it or cooking it, these three active ingredients, special ingredients, naturally occurring, are destroyed. You may not get the full content of it. Even if at all, it will be reduced. And so it's important for you to know that the coconut oil, the cold pressed coconut oil, stands out because of the cold pressed. And so the cold pressed is able to tackle a host of ailments. At the end, I shall tell us how to use it for best results. A lot of people are going through things like memory loss. My dear, the solution is coconut oil. Stomach ulcers, frequent infections, low immunity, redness of eyes, itching ears, dental problem, oral problem, sore throat, goiter. I mean, the other overactive, underactive thyroid issues, bone-related problems. You just mention it. Viral infections. During the period of the COVID, when people were busy looking for something to rub on their hand to keep viruses away, I was busy using my cold pressed coconut oil. The cold pressed coconut oil has antiviral properties. It has those properties that can also stop the bacteria, germs, viruses from spreading. The cold pressed coconut oil for skin problems, eczema, for diabetics, for those with stomach ulcers. Just name the disease, even for your pets. It's one alkaline oil that anybody who values his or her health should always have at home, because you can wake up at any time, any issue could come up. For external uses, for internal uses, the coconut oil will fix it. For kidney issues, yes, you heard me right. Those who are going through kidney problems, it's difficult to find something, an oil. But this particular oil, because of its ability, cold press, to boost metabolism, those who have not used it, real cold press, may not understand what I'm saying. I gave someone with kidney problem some years ago. I gave her cold pressed coconut oil, a bottle, 250 mils, as a gift. And she took it home and just kept it somewhere and thought, is it all I could give? But several months later, she called and was weeping that the coconut oil had saved her life that day, that night. That she had not used it since I gave it to her. But the time that her life was almost on the line, she began to consume the coconut oil and found out that it was the best gift that she ever received. Another woman also came down from the east and bought this book, this handbook, from somewhere in Lagos, and used the phone number to contact me. What was her problem? Frequent miscarriage. I'm telling you, what has happened is not what I read in a book, but what I am, in fact, I am the key player in it. She said she was begging. I said, I have another assignment to go, which required either traveling out of the state. But she begged that she want to see me. But she read this book and want to see me. I said, okay. I gave her my address and invited her. She came and was weeping that she has been having miscarriage. That the miscarriage was still happening as I was talking, and that was what brought her out of her location to the place where she met me. She traveled all the way from the east because she came to get attention from someone, but it didn't appear as if it was working. So she was just moving around and found this book. She asked me that from what I wrote here, that can it manage something like miscarriage? I said, of course. It is high in saturated fat. And this saturated fat is the one that holds the cell membrane. And most of the foods we are eating, when you see too much miscarriages, too many cases of not even infertility, it's because of the absence of naturally occurring fats in the coconut. She bought the coconut oil and I gave her to start to drink. She began to drink it. On the third day, she called me that the bleeding had stopped. And after the bleeding stopped, I advised her when to stop. She continued to drink, and then she was able to travel back. And for the first time, after about 7 years, as she told me, she was able to carry her pregnancy successfully and gave birth. Now, it's not for me to begin to mention several other cases. That's why I thought to remind us. She didn't come for it, but cold-pressed coconut oil will help prevent too much miscarriages or some cases of infertility in women where there is no saturated fat in the body, where the profile in the body of good fat is 0. In that case, there may not be anything to suspend, to give integrity to the cell membrane. when the fetus is still very tender. That is what I felt happened, and she was eternally grateful. But she continued against the caution to take it. She began to take more of it. And what was the outcome? She called back that she's having headache. I said, why? Are you still taking it? She said yes, that she has finished the first bottle and almost gone down with the second bottle. My dear, I said you should have stopped. I asked you to stop. What am I trying to say, my dear? The coconut oil has so much in stock for humanity. But the big pharma and all the people who are benefiting from our ignorance wouldn't allow you and I to know this. It's the one of the best oils that is available to us when it comes to all kinds of usage. The tag on the coconut as a bad food because of fat is a wrong tag. And we are creating awareness to remove that tag, that saturated fat has a lot of benefits. Research has shown that almost about 50% of our cell membrane consumed of saturated fat. Naturally occurring fat, saturated fat. They help to maintain the integrity of these cells. Even the heart disease that we are told that causes. Of course, a dentist, as we also read, had traveled out during one of his research trying to find out the effect of some of the traditional foods on the health of the natives. And it was discovered that those who are eating mostly coconuts were hale and hearty, with virtually no heart disease prevalent. Some of these were poor communities. They were eating mostly coconut, which was available, but the research by the young man revealed that they didn't have cases of clogged arteries as was expected, cases of heart disease, obesity, and all the stuff that were expected of people whose diet was mostly saturated fat. Thank you. You're welcome, my sister Ngozi. So, most of them were actually hale and hearty. There were no cases of obesity. There were no cases of heart disease. They were very trim, hale and hearty, and looking smart. And so, it was concluded, of course, that it is not the cause of heart disease. It's not the cause of most of the diseases we thought that coconut oil or saturated fat from coconut oil was responsible for. The bad saturated fat are the ones animal saturated fats, but not the ones in coconut oil. And that is the one I want to highlight to us, that if there is one oil you should have at home at all times for all emergencies, let that oil be cold pressed coconut oil. Whether it's insomnia, whether you suddenly woke up with earache, whether it's redness of eyes, as I've said before, sore throat at the onset, it fixes it. These are things I have tested, I have used. Whatever it is, it just poor digestion, when your food, belly fat, when you want to burn belly fat, it will trash out the belly fat. I call it the fat that kills other fats. A lot of people, when they want to burn fat, they start avoiding fat. No, avoiding fat is not the solution. You need fat to destroy fat, because fats are very stubborn. They don't get built up in one day. So if you are trying to lose fat, especially belly fat, I use cold pressed coconut oil on an empty stomach. It's still very effective. I'm still using it. If you notice that your belly is coming out or protruding, it does not matter. I shall tell us how to use it maybe in the next highlight. If your belly is protruding, maybe you have given birth through a cesarean section, or for whatever reason, you just observed a protruding tummy. You don't need to go for tummy tuck or surgery. Although the cold pressed coconut oil is not going to take it out in one day. We must be assured of this. But one thing I can assure you is that if you take it the right way, which I shall tell us at the last highlight of this life, it will trash out the fat, destroy the fat, whether it's cholesterol fat, whether it's whatever fat it is. But I tell you, it is very, very specialized in dealing with belly fat. If you're looking for something to deal with belly fat, my dear, consider coconut oil, cold pressed coconut oil, including it as part of your medicine. I recommend the oil to be taken as medicine. I shall give us more details at the end of it. Not as a cooking oil, and I shall tell us why. A lot of people will be asking, should they cook? Yes, some people are cooking with it. Some people are cooking with it. And it has a very high smoke point. It doesn't go rancid. You can stock it. It's a very stable fat. Not oil that will go rancid, turn to white, change the color, or become something else. This one can stay like this. 2-3 years, stay like this. Nothing. Although the most useful period is to use it within 1 year of production. That's what I advise for best result, 1 year of production. But even if you keep it for 2-3 years, I have the ones that are more than that. They are still like this. But only when you test it, if you are a user or someone that's familiar with cold pressed coconut oil, it's only when you use it that you will notice that it may not be the very fresh version that you're looking for. And so it has a lot of all these benefits, but we've been deceived that it's not good for us. It's one oil that you should have. If you're managing menopause, if you're experiencing excess toxins in your body, it's difficult to know the oil to use. If you're struggling with your immune system, bad cholesterol, something like things like anxiety attacks, when you are feeling suddenly you're low energy, when your energy is always low, you are weak, maybe because of you've consumed too much of the bad fat that comes from processed foods, and they have even clogged your arteries. If you are always having infections, frequent infections, especially typhoid and all those kind of infections, bacterial infections, you must always have cold pressed coconut oil. Have you wondered why all these things are dealing with us, all these bacteria? Anyhow, you don't know. Because most of us who have abandoned these healthy fats, these naturally occurring fats, we have abandoned it. So when we have abandoned it, we don't have good saturated fat to maintain the integrity of our cells. Then bacteria and our gut health as well. Then bacteria begin to thrive. The cold pressed coconut oil kills viruses, destroys them, kills bacteria, it has antimicrobial properties, antifungal, and it destroys. Like I said earlier before, my first encounter and search for it was actually for fungal, to deal with fungal. Because a lot of people try to use antibiotics, drugs, to deal with fungals. But fungals don't just die like that. They just don't get killed off with antibiotics. They are very stubborn. So oils like cold-pressed coconut oil, and it's not any other oil. No other oil has the component, the naturally occurring agents that are in coconut oil. No oil. Very high in saturated fat, about 89%, as I was, if I'm not mistaken, about which is the highest saturated fat in any oil. That's the oil that the saturated fat in coconut oil. So if you are not well educated, if you are not knowledgeable, it's not an oil that you can just enter into the market and just take it from the shelf and begin to use it. And that is why I thought to share with us today that I need to remind us about this healthy oil that many of us may have forgotten. We have taken it for granted. Diseases are everywhere. Some people are confused. Memory loss, a lot of ailments are all over the place. And you have tried a lot of medications here and there, but it's just simply adding the good fat in your diet could be the solution. Yes, I do take it. I shall tell us that towards the end also. I do take it. I've been taking it since 2010. It's almost 13 years. If there is any oil I should have at home, it's the cold-pressed coconut oil. I take it orally, as I said. Take it for my skin. No, I've been using it till date. For my skin, for my hair, for my oral health, as a mouth gargle, to strengthen the teeth. What else do you want? You will find it. Coconut oil will deliver it. During the time of COVID, it was what I was using to do my antivirus, to rub on my hands, on my lips. During Harmattan, I use it. I use it to rub my eyes to avoid wrinkling. Rub by the side, I use it everywhere on my skin. And the result is obvious. There are no much wrinkles. If there is any, I have even seen it. And people have also observed the wrinkles won't be there, even if they come as a nature, but it won't be much, like wrinkles all over the place. It's the help of the coconut, is the fat in coconut oil that does it. Now, how do we do the coconut? The first thing I want to address is that it's not advised to cook with the coconut oil, in my own opinion, because the coconut is high in saturated fat. When you try to cook with it, there is every tendency that you may actually exceed the required daily allowance which your body can contain while consuming that food. And the quantity you may not be able to ascertain. And that is when or where it will affect the heart. Because definitely, if you consume more than your daily requirement, it's going to affect your heart. Especially those who are asthmatic or have a tendency. And so if you have the coconut oil, the best way to use it, which I've been using it, is not to use in cooking. Because I have tried cooking with it, though it has a high smoke point and still stable. But the tendency it tastes nice too, even better, but the tendency to consume excess is very likely. So the best way to take it is to take it as a medicine. On empty stomach. And the best way to take it, the cold pressed coconut oil, is to take it on empty stomach with a teaspoon or a tablespoon. But I like to use the cap. I like to use this capful and take half of it. But I have also seen people who use it like 1 tablespoon, who recommend 1 teaspoon. I don't know, whichever way. But I have recommended the cold pressed coconut oil to people for various things. And it worked perfectly for skin rashes, for skin itching. There's so many testimonies of people who have used it and it delivers results. It delivers results. So don't mix it up with consuming coconut as a fruit. It will not give you the result that you will get when you take the cold pressed coconut oil. So you have to consume it as a medicine